Yeah, originally I can't remember 76 or 1977, that summer. The city council put together a commission to enhance the waterfront, draw people to the waterfront, and they created the Marine Commerce Development Commission.
I wanted to get involved in city activities, and I was fortunate to get onto the Marine Commerce Development Committee that was chaired at that point by Mike Lamparelli. For those of you who know Mike Lamparelli, you will know that the first order of business was to come up with the most fun thing he could think of for the city, and thus was born SailFest.
One of the first events we decided to have, we're going to call the SailFest, which was actually a sailboat race. And we were going to have a big awards party after. And we had to find a place for the awards party. It turned out being the mansion out at Harkness Memorial, which was not on the waterfront, but brought people into the waterfront to see the races.
We just wanted to figure out what to do to have a big party to bring people into the city. So Pat Kinnair went out and got all kinds of people to have stalls down on Bank Street.
It felt like a college thing. It was very much an interesting party organization, and everybody had a good time, and we just planned really nice things for the city.
We had parties after the parties to celebrate the parties. I mean, it was just a great time in New London.
And I remember we went to pitch the city council on what we were going to be doing, and we said that, we can bring in 50,000. And I'll never forget one of the city councilors at that time literally standing up, getting out of his chair, pointing his finger at us and says, "You kids couldn't bring 50 people into downtown New London."
Sail Festival was the biggest, was the biggest party in town. And that was, I think, the feeling in so many ways when we first started out, is that it was just, let's have a good time. Let's throw an enormous party for the city of New London. And now, all after the first year, after the fireworks, it became something, it changed completely. It was not what it had started out to be.
Well, it was back in 1980. Jeff Schneider and I were pals, and he said to me, "Dave, how'd you like to be the radio company that synchronizes the music to the fireworks? And it would be in a setting just like this, overlooking the water." And I say, "Yeah, that's a fantasy, sure. But yeah, I'm in. If you ever can find a scenario like that, let me know." And so in '81, we kicked off the fireworks to be part of SailFest. And I never knew what we were going to get into, but it was so much fun. And 36 years later, it's still going strong.
Well, the Grucci's had developed synchronizing music to the actual fireworks. But as far as the fireworks at the SailFest, when we started out, that was in the very early stages of fireworks being synchronized to music in New London. And the SailFest is one of the first annual programs to use that technique.
And what we found after the first fireworks, which completely blew everybody out of the water, they had no idea where this came from, but it was incredible. And it really, the first time it happened, it just kind of shocked people that New London pulled this off. After that first year, people started paying attention to downtown New London and started overcoming their fear of going downtown.
The next year, we just wanted to go to a bigger show, and we wanted to use 3 barges. But we couldn't do that all at once. And that happened a number of years later, after the budgets got to the point where the MCDC was pretty much no longer in being. The SailFest became an entity unto its own. Before he left, Mike Lamparelli talked to Mashantucket Pequot Tribal Nation and got them interested in it, and having them donate the money to sponsor the fireworks. And that's how we got from one little hand-fired show up to this massive, one of the biggest outside of let's say Macy's or one of those specific programs that were nationwide. The New London program became one of the biggest fireworks.
SailFest is such an important event to the region because it's the one event that brings us all together. And I think throughout southeastern Connecticut, if you've been born here and raised here, you know, the one event that you can go back to and recognize how important it was to us as a community was SailFest.
So in the early days of the fireworks, one thing that happened purely by accident was we're all on the boat making sure that we're ramping up for the event, and we had live mics, and Mike Zaranax, one of our announcers broadcasting from the middle of the river, says, "Hey, New London, say hello to Groton." And I cringed because what I was worried was how many people are actually listening to the radio station, right? And I didn't want it to be out there that there were only a handful, right? So sure enough, there's this deafening silence when Mike says to New London, "Please shout out to Groton." And then a few seconds later, this incredible roar came over New London. And of course, everybody's excited on board the boat. And so Mike turns to Groton and says, "Groton, can you say hello back?" And all of a sudden, we had our competition, what we call the call across the river.
So I had seen how the MCDC had an event that was a great event, and it was a 3-day long event. And when the Downtown New London Association took it over, unfortunately, because they were all working with volunteer staff, the event had whittled down to a 1-day event. I was inspired by what MCDC did and how great their committee was and how dedicated their volunteers were. And I'm like, I really want to bring it back to the MCDC days.
And as you can see, I got these T-shirts, and these T-shirts have each one of these people, which included some of the members that are MCDC members, donated $100. They got their name on the T-shirts, and that's how I bought the T-shirts. So we would have the road race. It was a 3.5-mile road race. The first year, I think I probably drew about 300, and it grew. I think I had up to 600 at one time. It was just a fun event. We look forward to it every year. It brought people to New London. They planned their vacation. It was a family event, and the city can do nothing but benefit from it. There's no question.
Again, the best thing about SailFest is the things that people can do here. The rides for the children, the music. We've had 3 different stages going. We usually have a Latin stage.
I tried to follow the footsteps that MCDC had, whether it was with entertainment or whether it was vendors. But one of the biggest thing is the volunteers. You know, they understood that the volunteers were the heart of SailFest, and they really are. You could not have this event without our volunteers. And I am very lucky to have a lot of the original committee members from MCDC that still volunteer for me today.
The first things I remember were the fundraisers. We had cruises to nowhere with casinos on board the ferries. We had casinos up on top of the Mohegan, because you have to remember this is before Foxwoods. For 15 years, we raised the money.
Oh, I love it. It's history here. It's part of New London. I mean, there's certain things that mean New London. I mean, like SailFest. If somebody says SailFest, you know they're talking about New London.
And it's all about the love of the city of New London and the devotion and the commitment to SailFest that brings in all these people that want to give up their time to come down to SailFest to volunteer. And it's all because they love SailFest, they love the city of New London, and it is like Christmas in July for the city of New London.
Thanks to the Mashantuckets, the event continues, and thanks to the SailFest committee and Barbara Neff, the event hopefully will last for another 40 years and then some, because it really means a lot to the region and to the city of New London.
On behalf of the Mashantucket Pequot Tribal Nation and Foxwoods Resort Casino, we'd like to wish a very happy 40th anniversary to SailFest. We're sharing our anniversaries this year, 25 years of Foxwoods, 40 years for SailFest, and it's been an incredible partnership, and we look forward to many years ahead.